Record on this computer. There we go. Do you see? Yep, we're recording now. Okay, awesome. So nonverbal communication and perception. As a group, you just gave me a great list of different types of nonverbal communication. And so we're going to get into some more detail about different types of nonverbal communication, what they mean, how they work, and really how important they are. And I want you to think about this, especially in terms of, I've said the word importance a few times, but really what's the value of nonverbal communication? Because as you think again about the final in a few weeks, I know we haven't talked about it yet, but as you think about the final, you'll see that nonverbal communication is really quite powerful. And while we do only spend, one night really focusing on it, there's so much more that we can include when we talk about nonverbal communication. All right. So I always like to start by talking about some principles of nonverbal communication. Okay, so see, these are some things that if you go back to the first week of class, we talked about principles of communication. Now we're looking a little bit more specifically, principles of nonverbal communication. First of all, it's everywhere. It's inescapable, okay? And I want you also to consider the fact that it's not just person-centric, okay? It's not just something where you have to have an actual physical person to be there. You don't need to have a person there to see nonverbal communication. And we'll get into that in a little bit. It's kind of a weird concept, but as we think more about it, I think you'll understand it. Nonverbal communication is multi-channeled, which means it comes across in lots of different ways. There's lots of different ways that you can communicate communication. Most of what you listed in the chat were physical kinds of communication or things that you do with your body. Which comes down to a word called haptics. But when we talk about nonverbal communication, there's many other ways to communicate that way too. And then finally, this is a key word. I want you to really think about that last word there is gestalt, G-E-S-T-A-L-T. Nonverbal communication is processed as a gestalt. And we'll come back to that in a few minutes, but that's going to be a really key thing when we talk about nonverbal, all right? I don't expect that you know that word, but definitely like the top 3 words that we're talking about. So I'm just going to throw it in the chat for you here so that you remember it. Gestalt. Okay. So I always like to start, a couple more, communicating without words. Okay. It's highly cultural. It's highly contextual. And this is the key thing that I wanted to go back to. I know someone mentioned that American Sign Language is a form of nonverbal communication. It's actually not, all right? American Sign Language is actually verbal communication.
I was actually gonna say that. I was gonna say, I take it back because you said it cannot be translated into verbal, into word. So I was like, crap, I messed up. But okay.
No, you didn't. You didn't. It comes up every class because you would think you're signing, you're using your body, that that it would be nonverbal because you're not using words. But when we talk about nonverbal, it's not, look at the word verbal. It's not like oral coming out of your mouth, right? Non-oral communication. It's not verbal, and verbal in this case means word. I mean,
I was about to say that. I was about to, it's weird. It's weird to think that signing is not as verbal, but when you do look at it,
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know about you, my baby's sign language is really weak because I haven't used it in a few years, but like, this is milk, right? This is more. You've got daddy, you've got mommy. Frankly, Amelie is better at the baby sign language than I am now because she was learning it in preschool. But it's, if you can attach a specific word, milk, to that sign, it's verbal. So right there. All right. Great moments in nonverbal communication. This is what I've been trying to get to for a few minutes now. I give you this image. I love this image. It cracks me up. Nonverbal communication is so prevalent and it's been around forever. And I just wanted to share with you documented history of the first middle finger. All right. The first middle finger was captured on camera, 1886. This is a baseball player who played for teams that eventually became the Red Sox. which explains a lot because I'm a Yankees fan. Regarded as one of the greatest pitchers in the 19th century. And you know what, felt somewhat entitled and you know, feeling a little sassy. And so this is the first known image right here in the circle of him giving the bird to the other team. All right. And the fact that it's there, and the fact that he's getting away with it, really, it kind of shows you that this particular nonverbal communication has been around for a lot longer than you think it is. You know, if we're talking about 1886 and he's giving the bird. And some stats there for you about his experience as a ball player. Seriously, supposed to be one of the greatest pitchers in baseball, responsible for giving the first documented middle finger. He was so thrilled that he got away with it, that he did it again the next year. And in 1887, this is his baseball card. And you can see right there in his left hand, he's again giving the middle finger. It's not unlike that thing a few years ago with the middle school boys, and I don't remember how it goes, you know, where they look at my hand or that sort of thing. So there you go. Boys will be boys 100 years later too. All right. So what do you think is more important? Talk to me about this. What do you think is more important, verbal or nonverbal communication?
Nonverbal.
Nonverbal, why?
I think primarily because not everybody can be verbal. It's not.
Okay.
It's not something that's as much as we want to say verbal is universal. It's not, because it's not something that everyone, like for me, when I was in a coma, little transparency moment, I was unable to be verbal. When I started to come out of the coma, I wasn't able to talk. I wasn't able to be verbal. So I had to rely on other things to communicate. So I think nonverbal is much more important.
Sure.
I agree, because sometimes with nonverbal communication, you can express a lot. You can say a lot, as opposing to verbal, because emotions get into it and you can express. You can certain things you can express, but when nonverbal, there's a lot you can express, like with the body language, the look, the stares, the, you know, behavior. Yeah. I think you can express so much. I agree. I you know, in the society we live in, it's not, you know, conceivable, but.
Well, if you go back to, again, that first week, we were talking about the 5 principles of interpersonal communications. One of those principles was the fact that communication is so nuanced, right? And that was a word that we looked at a few weeks ago, so nuanced. And if you think about it, someone said huff and puff when we were listing the different types of nonverbal communication, and, you know, or a sigh, you know, versus, right? They're both sighs, but there's such a nuance between them, and there's such an obvious and powerful difference between them. I think that's what we're getting at. Rosina, go ahead.
I was gonna say, it goes back to the old saying, actions speak louder than words. You know what I mean?
Oh,
because
yeah.
when we, like you just said, to piggyback what you said about someone saying like huffing and puffing and things like that, it made me think about relationships, marriages, because when I was married, you know, the verbal was looked over, like it was just like, you couldn't really take it serious. You had to pay attention to the silence. Like it was a silence that was golden. There was a silence that you were actually paying more attention to. So definitely nonverbal.
Yeah, silence speaks volumes, right? There's all sorts of different, you know, maxims about that. Other thoughts? Anyone want to argue that verbal is more important? You might be in the minority there, but you wouldn't necessarily be wrong. Or at least you're muted. Still muted. See, this is where I use nonverbal communication. I cannot unmute you. I can only ask you to unmute.
Okay. My screen is having no problem with the way that I'm seeing. With verbal communication, for me, I feel like there's so much when you try to verbally communicate with certain people, there is so much miscommunication. With verbal communication, people take, so you do have to, be mindful of how you speak or what
Mhm.
comes out, because people take things so literally or so
Yeah.
not the way that you intended or meant to say it. Too sensitive, exactly. So for me, where verbal communication is a good thing, but you have to always be on point or think before you speak, because you may try to convey, or you may think that you conveyed it in a
Yeah.
good way, may not be so. Somebody might take it totally in the opposite direction.
So let me
And
take your example and run with it. Ever get a text message that you completely misunderstood? Right? Because that is purely verbal communication. It's words, you're reading the words. And if that context is not there, if you don't have, again, facial features or something to go back on, or something nonverbal to balance it out, it's so easy to misunderstand what someone is saying and get into a fight. Marzina, go ahead.
Girl, Facebook child, I cannot deal with Facebook. Like, I'm just, for this funny you said that. Have you ever got a text message that was just misconstrued, right?
Yeah.
Like my best friend forever, I wake up to a message like, you laughed at my picture. Why did you laugh but liked, my arch nemesis, you loved my arch nemesis photo? What? And so I ended up having to call her. I'm like, good morning, sunshine. I don't know what side of the bed you woke up on this morning, but me laughing at your photo was because you were making a funny face while you were dancing. So I found it funny, like, And she was like, oh, I didn't really care.
Yeah, and remember, that's still verbal, because you're liking versus laughing at it.
That's still verbal?
That's still verbal.
Even though I laughed at it, that's verbal? Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay, I take it back again.
No, it's not wrong. Let me give you another example when we talk about verbal versus nonverbal communication. I mentioned a few minutes ago teaching my daughter baby sign language when she was little. She was just slow to talk. And so we were really relying on baby sign language for a while. And if you think about it, that we said is verbal because the signs mean specific words. But before that, I know quite a few of you are parents. Before that, what do you rely on to know that your child is in pain, or they're upset, or they're angry, or they're hungry?
Crying, the sounds they make.
Yeah. And that is a huge, huge example of nonverbal communication. A newborn infant can't tell you that she's hungry, but she can turn her head side to side, and she can, make the faces. And those are things that over the years, over millennia, really, parents have figured out, oh, when my kid screams, it means this. And we're so good at it that you get to a point now where your kid screams and you can stop and say, nope, that's the BS scream. That doesn't mean anything. Versus, nope, that's the hurt cry. Like, which one it is, and you can hear it and understand it. But again, same thing. It's not verbal. It's totally nonverbal. All right.
They also have like the clinginess to you, like they always.
And that's also nonverbal. Absolutely. Absolutely. So babies in particular, that's a huge avenue for nonverbal communication. Cool. I think a lot of people are going to say, especially when you do the research, that it's a combination of the two, verbal and nonverbal together. When you take those two together, that's when you're going to have the best kind of communication. We're in a synchronous online class, and most online classes are highly, highly verbal because it's words and reading. But now that we're able to put faces and names and actually have conversations together, we've got that nonverbal piece too. So as a class, it's hard because you have to book, 3 hours of your time every Thursday night. But as a class, I do think that you get a little bit more out of it because we've got that verbal piece and we've got that nonverbal piece. All right, let's look at Gestalt. It's that word I threw out there a few minutes ago. Nonverbal communication is a gestalt. All right. Talk to me about this picture. What do you see here?
I don't know if she constipated or she's angry or scared. This picture is really confusing. I think she's trying to be angry and yell. Yeah. I think that's what she's trying to do. Bad acting.
I was about to say that and she's angry and she's yelling at the same time with the the expression on the face.
That's the mommy yell. That's the mommy yell.
With that, I was about to say that with the yell, like
4-year-old. She has a 4-year-old. I could put money on
it. Probably. Any other thoughts? What do you see when you look at her?
She's well put together. She's like, she's well put together. I don't know. She looks over it.
Oops, I went too far. I'm trying to adjust your faces on the side so I can see everyone.
I actually looked up what that word assault mean while we were doing this.
Yep.
So yeah, because I was like, what does that mean?
What does it mean? Tell me.
There it is. I guess
well, she already put it up there.
Yep. Oh. It's a whole that is perceived as a combination of the sum of its parts. All right.
Girl, well, I thought that said constipation of the sum of its
nope.
parts.
Well, you said constipated. Combination of the sum of the parts. Here's the deal. How did you break down this woman's body language? How did you decide that she was angry? What told you that she was angry?
The eyebrows.
The eyebrows.
The eyes.
Mm-hmm.
The hands on her hips.
Yep.
Oh yeah. Big time.
The screaming mouth.
Yep.
The screaming mouth. Yeah.
The stiffness of the body as a whole.
Mm-hmm. Anything else?
Did you hear me with the hands on the hips?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
I've cut off the picture so you can't see her full body, but she's leaning forward in it. Like a mom towering over you.
I was going to say the shoulders. The shoulders looked a little pushed up, like in forward kind of. Like
she's tense, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And people always point to this vein in her neck, like her veins are bulging there. And there's a little bit of a line in her forehead. And yeah. So all of those pieces that you just pulled out, you looked at them instantaneously and combined them in your head and said, ooh, she's angry. That's Gestalt. You took all of those pieces, right? So it's a whole perceived as a combination of the sum of the parts. You didn't say, oh, okay. You didn't count up hands on her hips, mouth open, eyebrows yelling, tense neck. You didn't count all those separately pieces. You just looked at it and said, ooh, mom's mad. That's the Gestalt. The fact that you're able to look at it and see all those pieces and process it instantaneously. Wasn't even, you didn't even hesitate. So when we think about nonverbal communication, a lot of times it's just an instantaneous reaction. You know immediately what you're getting into or what's being communicated. Think about an instance when you're walking through a store or you're in a public place and you see someone and you immediately get like a bad vibe from them. Maybe they're in a bad mood, they're having a bad day, maybe they're just creepy, whatever it is, but you immediately see that person go, ooh, we're going to avoid that person. Again, it's a Gestalt. You haven't gone through a checklist and said, well, shifty eyes, runny nose, hair in their face. You haven't gone through all of that. You've just said, I don't like the looks of that guy. And that's the idea behind a Gestalt. Okay. All right. So again, you looked at her body language, you came to that conclusion. All right. All right. So let's talk about nonverbal communication and perception. And I want to emphasize really quickly perception. Remember that when you're taking in all of this information, you're perceiving it. Okay. You're perceiving it and you are deciding what is being communicated. And so you're thinking about, I want to go back to her for just a second, because a couple of you said she's not a very good actress. And that's something that you perceived. She's trying to communicate anger, but you also perceived, she's not very good at this. This might not be a real image. And you'd be onto something because, yeah, this is an actress. She's not actually yelling and angry at someone. She's just displaying the body language so that she looks like she's angry at someone. All right. So perception, the way you just see things and take them in and perceive them too. All right. Things that people decide within seconds of meeting you. These are kind of scary. The first one, if you're trustworthy. When you see someone, immediately you decide, do I trust this person or not? It's one of the first things that they decide. Second one, if you're high status, how much money do you have? Right? That's where brands and like, you know, designer bags and clothing become more important. And also clothing that fits well, you know, does not communicate the same thing that clothing that's kind of baggy or shabby. Number 3, I'm pretty sure that this is one that everyone can relate to immediately, if you're straight or gay. Because that's something that, again, in our society in particular, it's important to us to analyze that and to break that down for people. And so people often immediately look at, you know, the person as they meet them and say, oh, that person must be straight or that person must be gay. The fourth one, if you're smart, like within seconds, people look at you and make that determination if they think you're smart or not. Number 5, if you're successful, right? And again, they mentioned
Where's
tailored
number 5?
clothes. What's that?
Oh, there was number 5. I'm like, where's number 5?
Up at the top here. Yep. Clothing has a lot to do with that too, the way you carry yourself. 6 is if you're dominant. Are you someone who's going to be more pushy? Are you someone who's going to be more controlling? Number 7 has, I always feel badly because this one I feel like has more to do with women, but it's if you're promiscuous. People immediately will judge you and decide if you're promiscuous or not. Courtney, you wanted to say something?
Yes, because if you're a woman and you are, you're looked down upon. But if you're a man, you are, oh, that's fine.
Ah,
Listen,
yeah.
we can only get pregnant one time at a time, but a man can get a woman pregnant
Constantly,
like however
right?
many times he can do it in a day. Okay.
Not disagreeing with you
Ridiculous.
at all. It's not what I thought you were going to say. Take a look at the image there, the woman on the airplane with her laptop. What do you see?
She looks shy.
You said it. Yep, tattoo. She's tattooed.
Oh, I was
And
gonna
if
say.
yeah, and if you consider all the other people that they've shown so far, that's not something that they've included in all those other people. So it's interesting that this particular graphic associates promiscuity with tattoos. Something interesting. The last one, I don't know if I buy this one as much. I mean, 1 through 7, they really ring true with me and I do believe them. But number 8, if you're adventurous, if you are someone who, they're saying that if you're more adventurous, you tend to be more loose and relaxed in your walk, whereas people who are more high strung tend to be more rigid, you know, in their movements. So interesting way of looking at it. But within seconds, people decide based upon this body language, this clothing, your hairstyles, all of the way you're walking, all of these things, they decide what they think about you. Which kind of, if you think about a job interview. What does that mean when you go into a job interview?
See, Professor, you made me think back again. When I used to work for MetLife, I'm not, and she was my first corporate boss. She was the international vice president of information technology, and she had me as an intern helping her do, you know, interviewees or whatever. And she had me. She literally, how she would do it was like this. She would look at a person and she knew whether or not she wanted to hire them. So what made me, which is, it plays a role in how I think of myself or deal with myself and my health, is because she said to me, and she's a white woman, an older white woman when I was younger, and she said to me, she said, Marzina, she said, the first thing, honestly, we look at in the corporate world that we're in, she said, is their physical feature. She said, we look at their resume, she said, but their physical feature, are they well groomed? She said, if they're heavy, she said, if they're heavy, I'm not gonna, she said the other word, but if they're heavy. And one of the women, she came in, she met everything, all the standards and requirements that she wanted. But because the lady was fat, to be honest, lack of better wording, she said toss away her resume. And when I asked her why, she said because she was heavy, and she said she has to come on flights with me. I have to pay for 2 seats. She's not healthy. She was out of breath from the waiting room to my office. She was like, so she's not healthy. She said, I don't want anyone like that with me because I'm gonna be afraid, for them. She was like, so no. So she ended up hiring this small, petite Spanish woman, honestly. And
Wow.
and that's how she did it. But she threw away every heavyset person, had me throw away every heavyset person's resume. And that's
She's
how it
lucky
went.
y'all don't sue her for discrimination.
Is that
No.
not, I was about to say, Professor,
I was young.
is that not a bias?
I was only
Yeah.
14.
Is
Oh
it?
yeah. That is
I was
definitely
only
bias.
14. I was on, but what she did is she took the curtain down and she let me know how it is truly in the corporate world and how they really are. Some, not all of them, but some of them, but the ones that are like vice presidents and presidents, if you look at who their assistants are, if you look at, they're not big people if you pay close attention. Look into like celebrities and who they have for their assistants. It's very far and in between. You're gonna see a big girl. They're just now making it like a thing to want to, but majority of the time you're not going to see a heavy set person running around. You might see them being a makeup person because they got to sit down in one place, but they're not going to be running around behind the person doing things with them.
Yeah.
So it sucks.
Absolutely.
But it's real life.
That's really sad, that to know that person may have been the best assistant, but because of her
Absolutely.
physical appearance,
Mhm.
that
It
look,
is.
and I'm gonna tell you, I'm not skinny, I'm not fat, I'm in between.
I'm
And
fat.
after, listen, I'm chubby. Look, but after having, which I think
Summertime. We're all going to be excessively harsh on each other right now, or ourselves right
after having my stroke,
now. Mhm.
my weight wasn't a problem for me. I was okay with the way that I am. I was able to walk. It wasn't a problem. But now I'm more conscious about my weight. And this is the thing that's bothering me. I don't like that I am so heavy, because it's not because I don't like me or I'm not comfortable with me,
Mhm.
because I feel it plays a part health-wise. You know what I mean? And it's sad for people to have to go and think that way. Now, Mazina, you just put in my head, if I'm going for an interview, like, I really have to think about
That's
how my weight
why.
is if I want this job, and that might
Yeah.
be, like,
But that's
crazy.
why.
Thank you for sharing that. Like,
Mhm.
whew,
But
I
it's
don't
true.
know.
It's true. It sucks because after that, I ran every day for lunch break. And I was 14, 15. I used to run every day, and I worked for her. I went from being an intern to a permanent employee after high school. And the youngest on board, the highest paid, youngest individual in that corporation. And really, I used to run every day. When she
Yeah.
told me that, I used
They
to
have to
read
maintain something.
a
Yeah.
thesaurus and run every day.
I gotta
you
be
kn-
honest, about 10 years ago, maybe more than that, maybe like 12 years ago, the school I was working at the time, we needed a new art teacher, and we had someone come in, and it was summertime, and at that point I lived like less than like a 10-minute walk to the school, right? 2-minute drive, 10-minute walk to the school. And my principal asked me to come in and sit in an interview with her. And so we interviewed this person. And this was, again, 10, 12 years ago, right? So great leaps and bounds have been made in just the field in inclusion and diversity. And this person came in, and we couldn't tell if this person was male or female. And medium builds, button down shirt, khakis, and a short haircut. And between mannerisms and even the name, like the name was Chris or something, or Pat. And I mean, it sounds silly. It sounds like that old Saturday Night Live character, right? But this was really, truly a person who, if I look at it now, 12 years later, this is probably someone who was non-binary or somewhere else on that gender spectrum. But we couldn't tell what this person was. Not that it matters. And the interview was good. It wasn't a bad interview. This was certainly someone who's qualified for the position. But going back to that perception and how people judge you immediately when they see you, we were so clouded by the fact that, is this a man? Is this a woman? We couldn't hear anything else in a 45-minute interview.
You
And
overlooked,
I'm ashamed to say that now, 12
you
years later.
overlooked every
But we
qualification that that
did.
person had.
We did,
because you couldn't-
because we were so
That's
stuck.
crazy.
What is this person? And at the end of the meeting, thank you for coming in. We appreciate you interviewing with us, have a great day. We'll be in touch. And the individual left. I honestly think it was a woman. I do. And I turned to my principal. I said, what do you think? And she goes, I don't know. I didn't hear anything. I didn't hear a single word that she said or he said, because, and it was amazing.
So
But
Professor
you'll be
Sweeter,
surprised because it still happens now today.
Does.
The same,
I
you
know
would
it
think
does.
because everyone's so woke and gender fluent, et cetera, gender woke or whatever, and respective of people's pronouns or whatever, but they still do the same exact thing.
I was about
Yeah.
to say, Professor Sweeter, if this same situation arose now, would you think differently from
I
the way
would.
that you thought?
I would.
Or-
Well, I'm 12 years older.
Well, yes,
I was in my 20s.
I meant to
then.
say
I'm
being
not now.
older,
Yeah.
older now, would
And
your
I
point of
think-
view have changed?
Absolutely. And I
Does
think
your
there's
point of
more
view change?
exposure, and there's more
Mhm.
discussion and talk about the fact that people, gender, we're all at least 25 years old here, right? I'm guessing, I'm assuming, I shouldn't say that, but we're all at least, okay, Amber's shaking her head, whatever. But we all were born in a time and lived in a time where it was male and female. And that's what we were raised. And now in the past few years in particular, there's more discussion about this is a spectrum and things are not binary, and there's more openness and there's more, fluidity. I mean, we just wrapped up Pride Month, right? So I think now that there's such more discussion about it and communication, and you think about, again, what is the media communicating? It's become much more acceptable. Because of that, it's easier for people to see these changes and to be more understanding and accepting of it.
Being more mindful.
Yeah, absolutely. But 12 years ago,
You guys want to hear? So one of my 16-year-old,
Sure.
she's very, very well spoken. I was always worried about her growing up because I felt like she was like a shy, withhold person, but now she's like developed into a beautiful young lady. And she has a friend, and one of her friends is gay.
Mhm.
And you can't say anything wrong about it. Like, she will cut your head off. And being raised and being West Indian, if anybody knows, Jamaican men has a thing with gay people. They have a problem. So one of my friends, which is Jamaican, was hanging out with me one time, ended up seeing the friend come in. And he said to me, you should tell her not to hang out with that type of person. And she overheard that. She ripped him a new one. It wasn't that she was being rude. It's just that you could feel how you want to feel, she said to him, but don't make those comments in front of me. You make those comments in front of me, you're going to get that feedback. Like, you're going to get that. And as a mother, I was just like, I'm sorry. Like, I wasn't expecting her to lash out at him. And it's like, it's understandable. Listen, she's that young, acceptable. She accepts that. Like, it's nothing wrong with her. But my generation, we frown on that. And I'm just like, you need to get out of that all the time age, like session that you have. Just because he's gay doesn't mean he's trying to get you or anything like that.
You saw me go back a little bit. It's highly cultural. Nonverbal communication is highly cultural.
Yeah.
It's very cultural. And like, I have to piggyback what you said, Arlick. It's, being raised, adopted by Jamaicans, but being a Trini, I totally understand. So when I was engaged, another transparent moment, y'all probably like, what? I was engaged after my divorce to a woman for 2 years. So I totally get it, because I was like cut out, shunned, threatened, they were gonna kill me, take my kids type stuff. So I totally understand how that goes. But like now with my children, they're very much aware, type of thing. And the nonverbalness, like my daughter, My daughter she has her pronouns, and which, like you said, it was what you said 20 years ago, Professor?
12,
So
12. I'm not that
12.
old.
No, I was in my head. Did she say 20? Because I was about to say she can't be. But okay, 12 years ago. So had my daughter come to me with pronouns years ago, I probably would have been like my mother, like frantic and crazy and upset. But now, because we are aware, like you said, educated, now we can have respect factors for everyone.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So let me take this one step further. That same summer, I helped out with a couple other interviews, and another one that I sat in with the principal was an elementary school teacher, kindergarten teacher. We needed a new kindergarten teacher. And this woman came in and she was great. Her resume was awesome. She was sweet. She was kind. She was really a good fit for the job. She was 7 months pregnant. I see. She was 7 months pregnant. And at that point, again, I was probably 27, 28 years old, didn't have kids yet, right? 10 years even before I had kids, 10 years before I had kids, right? And the fact that she was so pregnant definitely impacted that interview. We did not hire either of these people, I will say at the end, but that definitely impacted those interviews. So I'm seeing some reactions there. What are your thoughts on it?
I was that
happened
girl,
to
Professor.
me.
Go ahead, Courtney.
It happened to me. I was that girl. Like,
I was trying to get just this little part-time job while I was pregnant with Molly. And
baby girl,
my friend was just like, oh, we just need another office woman or whatever. And it was just minimal paperwork or whatnot. So I said, okay. And I go in and I was 7 months pregnant. You could not tell I was pregnant. I was still in my regular clothes. It did not happen. So then I go, well, what do you guys think? Like, I'm going to need 6 weeks off come April or May, depending on when my daughter decided to make her appearance. And it was after that sorry about my kids in the background, but I now know her on a different level. Her and I are very good friends now, who gave me that interview. And she goes, I'm saying this as a friend, not as the office manager, but I was literally told not to give you that job, even though you were the one person that should have got that job because of you were pregnant. And I was like, y'all know that's discrimination, right? Like, you can't legally do that. And she goes, yeah, this was like a year later or so, but I always knew it in my gut that I didn't get it because of that. But you would never think that that's why. And when I worked at Tractor Supply, when I found out I was pregnant with my youngest daughter, I was going to go for the store manager position, and my district manager flat out told me, she goes, you don't want that position anyway till after you have your kid. I'm like, well, that's not your decision to make.
Yeah.
But okay.
So again, file this away if you're angry, because it's what society communicates about pregnancy and children and motherhood and women. Yeah, absolutely.
I was pregnant with my
It's
twins.
nonverbal.
With my twins. I wasn't fully showing, but you seen it because they were twins. And most of the job that I've always applied for has been office work. Exception is because I'm good at it. And the one job that I applied that I really wanted, what happened? Oh, I'm sorry, Mama. The one job that I really wanted, give me a napkin, please, that I really wanted, and I felt like it would have kind of like helped me with what I wanted to do in the future, was to go back to school, was to do, at the time it was in human services, but you want to say hi? But that's my 16-year-old. It's only one of them. The other one is at basketball. And to find out, I got the job, which was the YMCA, and the person that gave me the job that interviewed me at that time told me the reason why I didn't get the job was because that I was pregnant. They didn't think I would have been versatile because I'm at the front end. I needed to moves at certain point, and then didn't think I
Sure.
was gonna be able to do that. And that when she said that to me, and I was like, I'm not her friend, and I was like, you know what, that's discrimination. I should go after you guys for that, because now I had the job over the thing, and it was great having the job. But to think that the YWCA would look at you that way would make that discrimination, I was baffled by that.
I didn't realize you meant the YWCA. Wow.
I was baffled by
That's
that.
a different can of worms. Yeah.
Yeah, and you know, they are more about women empowering when it was that one person.
Right.
And the reason why she did that was because, you know, she got to know me because my kids became part of the YWCA. She got to know me and she felt like to divulge that information. And in my head, I'm like, I'm really not your friend. So I don't think you should have divulged that information to me because I might take it somewhere else. You know what I mean? But then it was so long ago that I was like, it is what it is, but reapplied and got the position because I was best suited for it. Like,
but you know, it still happens today.
That's, yeah.
What's the YWCA? What is that?
It's young
It's,
women. Is it Can Achieve? Like YMCA.
YMCA. It's like the YMCA, but this one is preferably focused more towards women.
Women's programs.
Domestic violence, young teen girls. It's more, it's versatile, but it's most of the programs is more women based than.
Oh, okay.
I mean, depending on what town you live in.
It's for women, but they're discriminating against the women that they stand for.
Exactly. Yeah.
When she said that to me, I was like,
Yeah. Rosina, go ahead.
That should be an Alanis Morissette song.
He's so stupid. Freaking all right. So for me, it was I went to her interview. I knew I was pregnant. I already knew I was pregnant. I had just found out. I found out I was pregnant at 3 months with my second child. And my mother had said to me, you know, thank goodness you're not showing, you know, type of thing. You know, so she said, but where, you know, I know how to, you know, dress properly. So, you know, professionally. So I wore my corporate, you know, or interview clothes. And I went not so long after I began to show. I started to show at like maybe 7 months, 7 months, and my belly started to come. But I was wearing bigger clothes, so you couldn't really tell at all. Like you couldn't tell. It was an older woman, older white woman. These old ladies just be knowing, and you don't even have to say anything. And she came into the she came in and she goes, "How many months are you? You are so beautiful." My supervisor was to the right of me, and this was my first non-corporate job. It was I was working at Midas in Bloomfield, and I think it was Ruby was the manager's name, the store manager, the Midas manager's name, and he looked at me, and then he looked at the lady, and he looked back at me, and I'm like, so she said again, just adamant for an answer. She goes, "How many months are you?" And I go, "Excuse me?" She said, "Yes." She said, "I know a pregnant woman when I see one." She said, "I have all daughters." And my supervisor's like, he's super tall. He was like, had to be like 6'5". And he's looking down at me and he's like, so answer the question. Like,
but oh good. Like, where's your lawyer?
I was like, "Yes, I'm pregnant." I didn't tell her the month though. I was just, yes, I said, "You're right, I am." Like that. Because remember, she said, "I have daughters. I know a pregnant female when I see one." Like that. So she was like, "You have the glow. You're so beautiful." You know, things like that. And I'm
it's
just
a
like,
new job and you don't want to, you know, upset people.
But
oh my God.
I got hired there when I was 3 months. So I was there for, you know, some time. Yep. Then they, you know, it got bad. The tension was thick because they started making pregnancy jokes, saying that he said, "Don't have that baby on my floor because I'm gonna make you mop it up." Like, you know, stuff like that. Long story short, they ended up firing me. For no reason at all. No reason at all. They said that the drawer was short, which, come on, try again. The cameras are right there. I would never. And they were like, it was always short 10 cents. If you were going to lie, go big or go home.
10 cents.
Like 10 cents. He said it was short 10 cents and 10 cents was always missing. I swear to goodness.
If I was gonna get fired over money, it's gonna be a felony. Trust me.
Okay.
Go big or go home.
Thank you.
If
Go big or
it
go
was- if I was
home.
gonna
Yes.
steal, I would have went in the back. I mean, I was counting the drawers every night. I had to bring the envelopes to the bank. If I was gonna do it, I would have done it all those other times. So,
Uh-huh.
but anyway, let's not go there. We're recorded. Good when I take all of that back. But yeah, 10 cents, and I ended up having to sue them, and that was like that paid for my wedding.
That's cool. So here's the thing. These are horrible stories, and the reaction, like, again, I think about communication. There's so much shared experience, and like I can relate and you can relate, and there's all this stuff that we're able to understand back and forth. But this is that nonverbal communication, because these are employers and other adults and older women and men and people sending very, very distinct messages, but it's not verbal. You know, in that interview where we interviewed the woman, she was, I say 7 months pregnant, but you know, I don't remember exactly how pregnant she was. It was showing at that point, at the very least. We never even discussed pregnancy. The word pregnant never even came into the conversation at all. But the sheer fact that she had her tummy was enough to knock her out of the running. And that's that perception. And then what's the communication is the fact that we said, nope, this person doesn't qualify anymore because she's going to cost us money. You know, it's going to, we were a small school, it's going to impact our insurance. We're going to have to get a long-term sub. And, you know, she's going to have a baby, and then we're going to have to deal with maternity leave, or what if the baby gets sick and stuff like that. And we were making these decisions based upon the fact that we just looked at her tummy, and that was it, you know, and that's where that nonverbal communication can be so powerful. And the examples that you're giving here, so dangerous too. Or at least you look like you want to say.
I was about to say with Marzina, when you said that was like a setup, that was like a nonverbal communication. It was a setup.
It sounds like
they
it.
were trying to find out. They couldn't tell. They didn't know. So
She did that.
something was created to get that out of you.
Yeah.
It was too random. It was.
And then
It was
magically, now you're taking money. You weren't taking money before, but now you are.
And it's done in front of the supervisor, right?
It was,
and
weird.
everyone's
He was never in
gauging,
the front or anything ever. Did that?
and everyone's
morning, he was
gauging your
all around.
reaction.
Correct.
Everyone's
And-
looking
and
at your face. How do you react? Not what you say, but how do you react? Yeah.
you know what? I think I would have lost it. I would have been, what business is that of yours? Does that matter? Like, that would have been my response. I mean, let me tell you guys, anger management works beautifully because there's certain things where I should explode that I've learned not to explode.
Oh yeah.
But back then, if that was me, like I would have been on the offensive. Like, why are you asking me this question? Like, you know, it wouldn't have been like to answer the question and so be it, whatever.
This reminds me of, I've got to look up on my phone really quick. This reminds me of, first of all, you think about all of those professional poker players, you know, that they've got the hats and the glasses, and they'll wear their hoodies or something to hide their tells. Again, it shows you how powerful nonverbal communication is. There was also a TV show with Tim Roth. It was about 10 years ago, called Lie to Me. And if you ever saw that, it was it was like a police drama where he was a scientist, and his job was to decode body language and decide who is guilty. And so he'd look for eye twitches, or, you know, people are looking up and to the left, stuff like that. And even now, when police officers do interrogations, they look at stuff like that. They're trained on stuff like that. It's so powerful. All right, let's keep going, because we're already at the 7:15. Let's talk about the types of nonverbal communication. All right. Before, you listed a lot of different examples of nonverbal communication. Well, that was Freudian, not vacation, communication. But they're actually different categories of nonverbal communication. All right. These are the 7 And then there's an 8th in your book, but these are the different types of nonverbal communication: appearance, kinesics, oculesics, proxemics, haptics, vocalics, environmental features, and then chronemics. All right. Most of what you mentioned before had to do with kinesics or oculesics, or haptics, but we'll
For
go
everybody,
through.
right?
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah,
Oh,
I
shoot,
think
is it
she
me?
knows.
I'm
Yeah.
Yeah, it was
After-
you, because we all got scared there for a
Yep,
minute.
I saw that.
After the word I don't know that word,
Chronemics. Yep.
chronemics. I was gonna say that, but I didn't know if it was right. I didn't hear a word you said.
Yep. All right. I have turned off my Wi-Fi on my phone here, so hopefully that'll help a little bit. I think Puppy Dog Pals is on in the next room. And that's it. So here we go. There's 8 different types of nonverbal communication. The list, what I was saying before, I apologize if I'm repeating myself, the list that you gave me before really centered around kinesics, oculesics, and haptics. But they're much, much more than that. So we're going to take some time and go through each of these. First one is appearance. This is a pretty obvious one. This is one that we've spent a lot of time already tonight talking about. It's basically what you're wearing. What do you look like?
Yeah.
You know, are your clothes ill-fitting? Do your clothes look good? I'll be honest, I've got a polo shirt on tonight, and I had it buttoned up a little bit more, but then I realized that the cameras got me lower. So I was like, oh God, let the girls out a little bit more, right? Because I want to look professional, but I want to be comfortable. So appearance there, I was concerned about how much I've got showing. We talked before about, people going into interviews. We talked about people wearing nice clothing, what fits well, what doesn't fit well. This image is for men, but it's pretty consistent, right? Again, think about what you would wear to an interview. You're going to wear something more polished, more dressy. I think most of us would probably aim to wear a skirt. You're certainly not going to wear jeans. You might wear nice pants, but you're not going to wear something that's, like wear shorts. You're not going to wear something that's a little bit more casual, right? There have been evenings when we've been sitting here in class and I've been wearing a dress on top and leggings or jeans on the bottom because you can't see it. And I'm trying to keep a particular appearance going. So there you go.
Quick thing.
Go for it.
Worked for Marshalls, and you know how they have the summer program.
Yep.
And these young kids would come in for interviews. So I had referred 2 kids that I know come in for the interview, come in dressed properly, don't come in sneakers, don't do all
Right.
that. And I kind of gave them a prep for the interview. So they came in looking professional. They came in, mind you, these are young kids. You had the other young kids that came to follow. They were dressed jeans, sneakers, and I was called into the interviews with them, and when again, people may not think they're biased at the point in time, but they are biased.
Absolutely.
And
absolutely.
I was asked to which of the kids that I would choose, me myself, because I had to train them, and which was bad. I picked the 2 that I had come in dressed properly, that was sitting there, that was being active, that was asking questions. You had others that was slouching, that was like, yeah, yo, and I'm like, this is not how you come in for an interview. So because the 2 had followed what I told them to do, I chose them. And everybody else made that decision on who because those were the 2 that I wanted to work with.
Oh yeah.
Because I felt like they listened, and it made a big difference on them getting the job, and was able to be hired permanently and was able to stay on because of my help. And it's crazy. We do have biases, and we don't think that we do, but we just
do.
Yeah, I made judgments because of the way that they appeared when some of them were really pretty cool kids.
That art teacher that I interviewed, had that person worn even a piece of jewelry, that would have helped, or a sweater, or summertime, but anything else that would have helped us distinguish male versus female, it would have made a huge difference, because
Maybe
then we
that
wouldn't
was-
have been so stuck on what is this?
Maybe that was the point that they were trying to make, like not to judge me because you guys don't know maybe they were trying to figure out who they were at that point in time. And I don't know, that one is kind of, it's sticking to me. Maybe the person had a point for doing that.
Maybe. I don't, having spoken to this person, I think they really were interested in the job. But yeah, I don't know. I think that would be more likely now, 12 years later. So let me give you another example of how rabid people get when it comes to appearance. So I don't know about you. I despise Ryan Seacrest. I think he's one of the most annoying people on the planet. I'm sorry if you are a Ryan Seacrest fan. I'm not going to show these videos in the interest of time right now, but this is a guy on the morning show, Kelly and Ryan in the morning, right? And when he first joined the show, people lost their minds because he doesn't wear socks. It's just a preference. He doesn't wear socks. So on the left, I can post these videos later on if you do want to see them. But on the left, you've got him on the Jimmy Fallon show, and they're going over and talking about how people get so upset about the fact that he's not wearing socks. On the right, it's another clip, them, Kelly and Ryan in the morning, talking about, again, he's not wearing socks. And people wrote in letters, like hateful letters, about just the sheer fact that here's a guy on TV they don't know, making hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not more, and he's not wearing socks. And people are losing their minds because it's not professional, it's gross, it's dirty, it's what, you know, and that's appearance. It became such a big deal that he didn't wear socks. All right.
That's retarded.
It is stupid. Yeah, it is really stupid. Hey, guess what? I don't wear socks either.
I don't wear socks all the time. I didn't wear none today.
Never wear socks. Hate them.
In the winter, you'll catch me wearing socks. In the summer, you will not catch me. I will not put socks on my feet at all in the summer. I'm not doing
From March to November, no socks.
Yeah, socks didn't want to work.
But yeah, people are making judgments about him based upon it. And at the end of the video, Kelly Ripa says, well, now you know how it feels to be a woman, because everything that women on TV or in the media wear, constantly judged. Look how low her shirt is here. Whoa, right?
We forgot about the meteorologist, the woman that we had for a second, who was wearing the tight clothing, and everyone lost their mind. Or even the she left though. It was a Black woman. I totally forgot her name, and I actually met her.
It was local.
She was the Black, thicker built. She was for Channel 3. She was on there for a while, and she left or whatever. And it was because her trainer, I had the same trainer as her, and we had a conversation. The conversation went pretty much that they would always get on her case. Like, they hired her with the promise of she would lose 15 to 20 pounds.
That's horrible.
But you guys didn't hear from me. Hush, Goodwin. I know y'all recording.
That's crazy, because I heard about her leaving, but the thing about it is everybody didn't look at the woman had up there, was more concerned about her physical appearance.
As opposed to her ability. As
her ability. Yes. Oh.
Well, look at the other old white dudes that are doing the weather now. What's his face? I think it's Fox or something like that.
Who's the really annoying one?
Not Gil Simmons, but the other one that is on that channel.
Is it Scott Haney?
Nope, not that one.
I was gonna say Scott, but I love Scott. I'm cool with him.
Bugs me.
I don't watch him, but he's not.
The name is there, and it just won't come out. I know
he's got a belly.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Cool.
Absolutely. Double standard.
Oh my gosh, I have to go look.
Double standard. If you look at it though, every newscaster, they're always very, very attractive, but the women in particular, they're held to a very, very different standard.
High standard. What's her name that passed away? Like, she stayed on point. Right. What's her name? Oh my God, you guys know who I'm talking about.
Yeah.
She was amazing, and she stayed the same. If you notice, she never switched up. She always stayed the same. Like,
had to. Yeah, they're forced to. And it's the same thing with actresses too. You know, you've got, especially in Hollywood, you have actresses who they reach a certain age, and this comes down to appearance, but they reach a certain age and they just don't get work anymore. Whereas you've got men who are years and years and years older who are still working, right? All right.
Yeah.
The next one, whoops, is kinesics. And this is essentially body language. I've given you a few examples here of body language. Crossing your arms and legs, massaging your forehead. You've given me a lot of examples already. I've got to be honest, I'm hyper aware today, the fact that my husband messed with my chair and like, I feel like I should be higher up, but if I do, I'm not in the screen. So I'm kind of slouching a little bit today, but, and I don't want that to convey something, but body language, so many different things that you mentioned already. Go ahead, Arlise.
The one on the bottom says massaging of forehead shows
Yeah.
uneasiness. But
Oh my God, so
I
stressed
do
out.
that, and it's not uneasiness. It's because like my head hurts, and I just tend to massage
Yeah.
a little bit. It's not because I'm like uneasy about anything.
Well,
You
realize
see
there's
a
gonna be
lot of-
different ones. There's gonna be different ones. I
Yeah.
mean, like you could be, oh my God, headache, or oh my God, you wouldn't believe this, or can't believe she said that, or face pump. Like there's so many different nuances.
Silent stare.
Again.
I forgot that one. Silent stares is one. Right?
Yes.
Is that considered nonverbal silent staring?
You mean how silence is used to convey something?
Yeah, like my daughter, for example, she's what I guess you would say a preteen because she's 12. So I know something is wrong with her.
She's quiet.
When she just does that, like, are you okay? I'm fine.
Yep.
But
So
the face
that
is wrong.
I'm gonna go past kinesics because I think you guys get it. Just to throw this out there, kinesiology is basically the study of how we move, and that's where that word comes from. What you're talking about, Marzina, is nope, not that one. Nope, I'm going too far. It's vocalics, so we'll come back to it. But again, think about body language. Let's look at arms akimbo, right? Here's the same posture, but it conveys something very different. What do you see here?
Pretty cool guy, look like a
Yeah.
player.
Confident, right? How about here?
happy,
Angry,
Aggravated
right?
mother.
How about here?
confidence,
Mhm,
Me no say.
glamorous. And how about here?
Her back hurt.
back
Same
hurt. Yep.
position. Same position.
Oh, it is the same. Duh, Mars.
Yep. So again, going back to the nuance and going back to the context, it's the same posture in almost every case. A little bit of difference here is this woman's got her hands on her back as opposed to her hips. And maybe B's doing the same thing here, but you know. All right, let's look at, nope, we're gonna skip that. Oculesics, I love this picture. So this is another way to communicate things.
Oh,
What is that face saying?
she did it.
That's an angry little girl.
She's
She
saying
wanted to
she's
stay
saying
at
a
the
lot. Like
Uh-huh.
you know, it depends on whether or not she wanted her cup, sippy cup, it wasn't given to her. Like there's a lot
Or
that's
it's the
coming
wrong
out of them
color,
eyes.
right?
Yeah.
That's the I don't want to leave the park face. I know that.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. But this is oculesics. So this is essentially how you communicate things with your eyes. Someone said before, the mom stare. There it is. Yep. If you're on Facebook and you want a good laugh, there is a group called Toddlers with Threatening Auras. And it's basically pictures of little kids making faces like this. And it's hysterical. Just funny pictures of little kids making boo-boo faces or angry faces, all using oculesics, you know, to communicate something. So eye rolls would be in that. Another one to think about is proxemics. All right, talk to me about this picture. What do you see going on in this picture?
I don't know whether he's
space.
intimidated or
Personal
what.
space. I was about to say that. You're invading my bubble.
And intimidation. Talk to me about the intimidation.
This shaky laugh.
You feel
I don't
pressured
know.
to agree with them, so they get out of your face.
Face.
Yeah. Anyone recognize that guy? The guy on the right?
Is that Nixon?
Close. Johnson, Lyndon B. Johnson.
Johnson.
Yep. This is the one who was president after JFK was shot. Tall guy, like 6'4", 6'5", very imposing, very domineering, kind of vulgar, like would regularly go to the bathroom with the door open and his secretary is right there, or just kind of whip it out kind of stuff. But he used, I know. What can I say? Old white guy from the South. There you go. He used his height and his frame to intimidate people. And I don't remember exactly who this is on the left. I believe it was, frankly, a Supreme Court justice. But you can see the way he's standing over him. They're like nose to nose, 4 or 5 inches in between. Johnson's using his proxemics. Think proximity, how close he is to the other guy, to intimidate him, to get him to vote for something that is important to him. That's the story behind this picture. So using that body language, using that personal space, how close you are to someone or not. If you're comfortable with someone, you're going to get close to them, right? If you're not comfortable with someone, you're going to keep your distance. You're going to back up. So you think
see
about,
the other guy wasn't phased by it though. Like he's laughing like, ha ha ha, whatever. Like,
but is he comfortable?
gonna-
I was gonna say, but he's
He's not
leaning back.
comfortable.
He's not that comfortable.
Yeah, he's trying to
with
step
that.
Yeah.
back.
Mhm. He's
He's
trying to
trying to
step
make
back.
a joke because he's the president. Like,
Right,
okay, but
right. So you're looking at
Yeah.
not the haptics, you're looking at the body language there as part of it. Proximity is part of it. The guy's staying close because he's trying to stand his ground. And Johnson's in his face because he's trying to intimidate him, but that body language, his arms are crossed. He's trying to protect himself.
Yep.
He's
To
got that
protect
foot-
his bubble. Yep.
Yep, he's got his foot braced, behind him so he doesn't fall over. Yeah, I want you to also look at the fact that it's hard to see here, but let me grab my pen. There we go.
I was gonna say, who are those people watching?
The people
There's a
watching,
wall.
right?
There's
Mm.
people watching. Yep, but there's also a wall behind him. He's got him literally backed into a corner there.
Corner.
Mhm.
And that's going to be another nonverbal code we'll talk about in a few minutes. So just keep that in mind. So you've got a couple different nonverbal codes working in this picture. But again, you can see proximity. In the past 18 months, we have, as a society, dealt with a lot of proxemics. Anyone know what I'm talking about? Proxemics have been super, super important in the past 18 months.
About the vaccine and stuff, like pressuring you to get it and stuff like that.
No, not even
No, with
that.
the pandemic, not being
Social
able to,
distancing.
You're right, it has to do with the pandemic, but specifically think proximity. What's been a
not
big deal?
being able to
The 6 feet apart.
6 feet apart. Yeah.
Exactly. the
Somebody else
6
was
foot rule.
saying something. Who was just saying something? Was that you, Amber?
Yeah, I said.
Oh, Amber, go
social
ahead.
dis- I
didn't hear
just
you.
said
What?
social distancing. That's it.
Exactly, exactly. You're absolutely right. And think about it, when you're out in public now, if someone gets too close to you, how do you react?
Pick off. No, I don't.
Yeah.
I don't say that. I don't say that. I promise.
But people
know
don't
what?
like it.
You know what with me is it depends on how close you are to me. And it all depends on if you're wearing your mask. Because
Absolutely.
people feel so strongly about this. Listen, and I keep telling people, you have your right not to wear it. But as far as for me, protecting my family and protecting myself and maybe protecting you,
Mhm.
I tend to like pull away.
Yeah.
I'm a hugger.
Sure.
And I've seen friends that it's just been like, give them the elbow, give them, and then some of them is like, but I want to hug.
Yeah,
No.
absolutely. That's
Yeah.
haptics.
That's been hard for
Um,
me. Yeah.
We were out for dinner the other night. We took a friend out for dinner, and it was a place where you, like a seafood place, where you walk up and you place your order, and then they call your number later on, right? And it was packed. It was Sunday night. There were a lot of people, and there was this guy behind us, big guy, a little bit intoxicated, and he was right on top of us. He was standing right there behind us. And my friend keeps going, oh my God, he's so close. He needs to get away. And she was getting worked up. He was making her really uncomfortable. So I just started stepping backwards and backwards and backwards so that I was in his space. And that was enough. Finally, that little communication was enough for him to be like, oh, whoa, hey, and back up himself. But proxemics, huge thing. All
My
right, what do
thing
we?
is, when I was at Family Dollar, and it was an older Jamaican woman, and oh my God, I was at the cashier and I can feel her behind me. Like, like right. And she was like a little shorter than
Breathing
me.
on
So
me.
her head was more like in my back. And I'm just like, oh my God. And I'm in my head like, okay, my mother taught me to respect my elders, but this elder is being very violating right now. Like, so I just kind of turned around and I just kind of looked at her and she didn't care. She didn't care. I'm not gonna lie and say she moved. She didn't move. She didn't give a doggone. She was waiting for me to move, like intimidating me. So I'm looking down at her. She's looking up at me like, move, man. And I'm looking like, oh my God, let me
But
just
here's the thing,
pick my
it's
battles.
cultural. It's cultural. She might not have realized that you were in her, or she was in your space. Americans, no, but Americans, we want our space. Stay the hell away from me. We do.
That part.
In other countries,
Oh.
people are more used to it. And I'm thinking, COVID aside, pre-COVID, we are very, I want my space. This is my bubble. Don't touch me.
Personal space, yeah.
Yeah. And it's contextual. It's cultural. It's contextual. All right.
And then the pandemic just made it worse.
So here it is, the Johnson treatment. I didn't realize I had more stuff here. He would do this. This is something that he did regularly to intimidate people. All right. Haptics is one that we keep talking about. Haptics is touch. Haptics has to do with how you touch someone. Think about how you hug someone. Is it a really tight hug? Is it not a tight hug? Is it loose? Handshakes are the example I'm giving you here in this picture. If you shake someone's hand, pre-COVID, if you shake someone's hand and it's a really, really strong finger crushing handshake, what does that communicate to you?
I think some people it's just the forcefulness or like letting you, it depends on the environment, letting you know
Sure.
that I'm in charge type thing.
I can't even, I'm not a good one to really answer that, primarily because raised in a household where both my parents were Marines, they're both vets.
Woo.
So we were raised, when you shake hands, it's a firm handshake, look in the eyes. If you look away, you're a liar, you're a thief, we can't trust you, we can't,
But that's
what it is.
communication.
And
right
you
there.
have to look them in the eye too, because if
You have
you
to look
shake
them
their
dead
hand
in
and
the
you're
eye.
not looking them in the eye, you
The
best
problem-
believe there's a butt whooping coming.
Yes,
Yep.
and thank you, Courtney. Dang, we grew up together, but apart.
Both my parents were in the Navy, so I get you,
See,
girl.
Marines, see, I'm telling you, and that's what it was. And like as an adult, it's deep in me, deep rooted. So when I shake your hand, I'm shaking, and men will be like, well, geez, like you're a female, can you be dainty? And when I'm more like, well, you need to man up. You're a man. You should match me.
Meet me with that
And
expectation, yeah.
And my father taught me that if a man does not shake your hand firmly, he said, Mars, if they don't shake your hand firmly, then that is not the man you need to be with. That's not a man.
And that is communication right there.
So
Yep.
that's how it went.
Perception, communication.
I can't answer that question. So shaking hands and looking in the eye.
But you did though. You did. It means something. A really weak handshake means something, and a really strong handshake means something, and a firm one. I mean, think of it this way. Why do people pay money to go to take classes on how to interview and how to shake hands? Right?
Oh, wow.
Those are real things. And this is why.
And then you said the hugging, right?
Yeah.
So for me, when I hug, if I hug you, I'm hugging you because that's me saying I accept you. So
Sure.
I hug, and when I hug, everyone knows me for my hugs. So, or my handshakes if you're a guy, but a hug. And when I hug, if someone hugs me and gives me like a pat on the back, like that church pat, I think they're fake, phony. I don't trust them. And that's me personally. I don't like that. If I give you a real hug and you do that, or if I hug you and you do that, hug me like this with your head like that, I don't trust you. I'm very crucial when it comes to a hug because I'm a huggerologist.
Okay,
But
exactly.
again, you're exactly talking about what is being communicated. The fact that you're touching someone, how you're touching someone, communicates something. Think about your child.
That's my basketball player, y'all.
Hi.
He just came from practice.
Think about your child and how you would touch that person, or someone you love, how you would touch that person versus someone you don't love. You're going to touch them very differently, right? Way back at the beginning, Marzina, you said that sexual communication is part of communication, or it's a nonverbal. There you go, right? That is the ultimate haptic touching kind of nonverbal communication.
How you shake the hand, how you hug,
I hate you. I don't care.
Yeah,
how you shake the hand and how you hug. That can be very sexual. I did not think
absolutely.
about that
And
myself.
among
It
other
is-
things, right? But you're
Yeah.
communicating something. You're communicating. I don't want to get too, X-rated here, but if you think about it, you
I
think
think-
about it.
You
right?
said when you shake a hand, it's sexual. Well, a forehead kiss can be sexual. That's
It
lethal.
depends on
That's
how you
lethal.
shake the hand.
Well, let's talk about that for a second. The way you kiss someone, a kiss on the forehead, a kiss on the hair, a kiss on the cheek, they all mean something very, very different. They all do. A kiss on the lips, they mean something different.
Mhm.
All right.
Look at Marcina. She's trying to think of what I mean by when you shake the hand that it can be sexual. I'm telling you, there are certain ways that guys shake your hands, and if they are attracted to you, that handshake will be
Oh,
It might
when
be
they
firm, they
slide
might
their
pull
hand
you in,
away
yeah.
versus
that
let
pulling.
go.
Yeah, see?
Okay.
You're
All
right.
right,
They
she's got it.
nasty.
She's got it. All right,
My
moving on
daughter's
because
sitting here-
we're getting
My
late
daughter's
here.
sitting here like, and they go like this, they pull their hand away slowly. I'm looking, like, what do you know about that?
All right, let's keep going. So vocalics, someone asked before about the silent treatment. Vocalics, think vocal, what you say, your tone of voice. I could say the word shut up, right? Shut up, right? Or shut up. And I can say it in different ways and I'm communicating something different. So vocalics, the tone that you use, the sounds that you make, or the absence of sound. So the silent treatment in that case also communicates something, all right? I'm the type that if I'm upset, there's two things that I'll do. I'll start slamming doors and I'll be like, ugh, and making noises like that. And I'm not actively saying I'm upset, but you can hear those noises and know I'm upset, right? So just think about just different sounds, again, not words, but different sounds that people use as a way to communicate, especially emotion, how you feel about something. Yeah. All right, any examples there, any commentary on it? You've been pretty commentary so far.
I think with the vocalics, like I think we all know that the tone, the way you express makes a big difference on what you're trying to express.
Absolutely.
The tone in the voice is a lot.
And I do want you to realize the example that I'm giving you where I say the word shut up, but I'm saying it in different ways. There's a combination there. I'm using both verbal communication with the words, but I'm using the nonverbal communication with the tone. So there's two different things that are happening there. But again, think about a child, think about a baby. I learned pretty quickly. My daughter figured out pretty quickly that if she cried a certain way, people would react to her. And so she, would be hanging with my mom or something. She'd start, and my mom would go, oh no, the baby. I'd be like, no, she's just looking for attention right now. That is nothing, because it was just that cry, just that different sound to it. That's probably the best way that I can describe vocalics in that case. But the sounds that you use, the tones, the noises that we make, all communicate something. All right, let's keep going. This is one that we alluded to before, environment. What do you see happening in this picture?
It didn't switch yet. I still see the baby. Okay.
Oh, no. Got it?
She's back. I see it now. Yeah.
Okay.
Ooh, what do I see?
There are so many things with that picture right there. I'll let you go first, Marcina.
First
Go for
off,
it.
he about to go to hell because I see the red button and the thing about to drop down. Apparently. But clearly that's a big boss and he's considered the little person, or he's a principal because I see the kid with the book. It could be, is that a
It's
dean
supposed to
and
be
a
two
student?
men.
Oh, two men.
It is
Okay.
supposed to be two men.
So-
He's waiting for a reason to dismiss him.
Thank you. That part.
Yeah, you see
There
the
you
button.
go.
He's uninterested.
And,
His mind already
that's going to be the what's the word? That's going to be the body language or the appearance or the body language there. But look at the environment. You've got this nice chair versus this kind of scuzzy chair, right? And the fact that this big guy is hiding behind this desk, that is environment. A few minutes ago, we were looking at LBJ and the fact that he had pushed the other man up against a wall as he's intimidating him. Environment is a nonverbal code, all right? A lot of
So-
times, go ahead.
For example, I was gonna say, so when you look at that picture, you see that guy sitting at a lower, and you
Yeah,
see him at
exactly.
the desk is higher. So to me, he's conveying, I'm better than you, like,
Yeah, oh yeah.
Dominant.
Right
Yeah.
here, we're looking at power.
yeah,
Yeah.
Yep, and that's what's being conveyed there. Think of it this way. I hope that you have not been pulled into your supervisor's office for something negative, but think about where you sit versus where that person sits. Okay, in the past, in particular, they might sit behind a desk and again, have that comfortable chair, and you might not have that comfortable chair. And it really emphasizes that power structure. And so offices, especially in the past 15 years, there's this whole movement to reorganize offices. And a lot of times what you see now is, yes, there's still a big desk, but there might be a small table, maybe circular table with two chairs, and you can sit together and talk there.
Mhm.
And the reason why those are now suddenly appearing in offices, especially a supervisor's office or administrator's office, is because it's to get rid of this whole power structure. It's to make that office feel more welcoming and to make that supervisor feel maybe a little less intimidating. So it's amazing to see how just offices, the way they're arranged, have changed over the years because of that. Environments is a tough one. Can you think of other examples of environment and how it's used to communicate things?
The decorations, the lighting,
Absolutely.
the painting on the walls, the
Yep.
carpet. Definitely the carpet. And the painting, I just like the flooring. The flooring and the paintings and the paint on the wall says a lot to me. Like it lets me know the energy of that person, like who
Yeah.
and what they are.
Yeah, and take this picture out of it for a minute. Just think about other places you've been to where the environment shows something. Again, in the past 18 months, we see a lot of screens, we see a lot of plexiglass, and that's communicating something about the environment. The people there in that environment are concerned about safety. They're concerned about welfare. You know, the spots on the floor telling you where to stand.
Like you said with the whole them trying to make it look more welcoming, I feel like that they have now changed. Like a lot of offices now don't have the white wall and they're super separated. Now they have the window wall,
Yep.
like, you know what I mean? And they have the shade that comes down to give the privacy from the other employees, but they typically now they have the glass and type of thing. But yeah, that's another different thing they do now.
Think about just the phrase open door policy.
That's why they have the window thing too now.
Yeah, open door.
Okay.
We're open, we're welcoming. We want to hear from you. Absolutely.
I just used that word in something that I had to do with the open door policy, and it was just certain environments need to be more open, because with the type of people that you're trying to attract, if you're not more open, you're not going to get those type of people.
Yeah, but it communicates something. It communicates a particular environment. It communicates a particular like community feel, you know. A supervisor that I had previously at Goodwin, I'll be honest, someone who I worked under at Goodwin, received a lot of criticism from people in the department because they had an office and they'd hide in that office all the time. They were always in that office. The door was always closed. The shades were always down, and they were there and they were working and doing their job and doing a good job. But because they were never like out and talking to people and they're always holed up in that little office, people began to distrust this person. And then one afternoon, they walked out of the office and looked around, and they were standing by our kitchen area and said, wait a minute, why isn't there a sink here? I thought there was a sink here. And we'd been in that office space for about 3 years at that point. And everyone was like, wow, the fact that you don't know in the office that you work in every single day for 3 years that there's not a sink next to the refrigerator says a lot about like what you're thinking about, what your perception of this environment is. So even that really communicated a lot of distrust and, you know, concern. People didn't want to work for this person because of it. So really
it
interesting.
pretty much showed like you were doing the job, you were here, but did not really want to be here. That's what it
Yeah.
showed. Yeah.
Yeah. Other examples of environment might include things like you walk into a store, how wide are the aisles? Or for people who are maybe need more accessibility to move around, more mobility, you know, how much space is left for a wheelchair to get through or for crutches or something. Think about on a street corner when you're trying to cross from one side of the street to the other, the fact that a lot of those curbs have a notch in it or they've got the rumble strips on them. Those are all nonverbal things in the environment, but they communicate something, frankly, about how much that area or that community is thinking about people and mobility or not. A couple years ago, like 15 years ago, I broke my foot. 12 years ago, I broke my foot. And it was Christmas time and we're trying to do Christmas shopping. And I was suddenly very, very aware because I'm in either a wheelchair or one of those little motorized scooters, but I'm suddenly very aware of how inaccessible a lot of places are because I'm on crutches, I can't walk. And that communicates, you know, we don't care about your needs or we care more about the profit than actually the customer in that case. It was very interesting to see that. All right, we've got one more here. And that is chronemics. Think chrono or chronological, has to do with time. And I mean, I see this especially in on-ground classes. You know, if the class starts at 11 and it ends at 1:50, about 1:45, people start, you know, packing up and moving and putting stuff in their bags and closing things, or they're looking at their watches or they're looking at their phones, that sort of thing. Closing the laptop. Chronemics are essentially that communication that communicates, let me rephrase that nonverbal communication that expresses some sort of concern for the time, like it's time to go, we're late, or I've got a lot of time, or, you know, I'm not concerned about a time. But think about that, you know, when someone's in a rush in particular, or they're bored, what do they do? What reactions do they have? And so that's another nonverbal code that people use pretty regularly, you know. I think about my very, very pokey 3-year-old who is impossible to get going in the morning. And she's just kind of do because she has no concept of time. And I'm rushing around, I'm looking at my watch and so forth. We're both communicating non-verbally what we think about chronemics. All right, so there they are.
She doesn't care about the time, but you do.
Say that again?
She doesn't care about the time, but you
Well,
do.
she has no concept of it again. I'm zipping back so we can see it really quick. So there you go. You've got your 8 different types. Appearance is clothing. Kinesics has to do with your body language. Oculesics has to do with your eyes, your vision, the expression in your eyes. Proxemics, how close you are. Haptics is touch. Vocalics is voice, the environmental features, and then of course chronemics. I have chronemics in parentheses there because it doesn't appear in the textbook, but it is still a valid form of nonverbal communication. All right. So as you're looking at homework for this next week, these 7, 8 are going to be really super important with all the answers that you're doing. You're really focusing on here's that nonverbal and what type of nonverbal is it. All right. So you want, if you haven't written this down yet, just make sure when you are in the textbook that you make note of these 8 different types of verbal or nonverbal communication. All right. Any thoughts on these? Something that you didn't think about when you thought about nonverbal communication? They make sense? All right. I'm looking at the time chronemics and I'm seeing it's about 8. So I'm trying to move things along here. All right, let me figure out where we are in terms of, oh boy. We're not going to talk about body language mistakes, but let's talk a little bit about microaggressions. Not microaggressions. Hello, that was Freudian too. Microexpressions. You know, microaggressions as, you know, something that is said involuntarily, a word or expression or movement, you know, that might offend people. Microexpressions are short facial expressions, things that appear on people's faces according to their emotions. And these are things that are actually impossible to fake. Again, this is why poker players wear glasses and they try to keep a straight face, or they chew gum so that they don't show that. I'm going to call Marzina out. Her story a little while ago about that older woman mentioning that she was pregnant, they were looking for microaggressions. They were looking for her facial reaction, what she was going to say to it. And there are 7 universal expressions. So disgust, anger, fear, sadness, happiness, surprise, and contempt. And these are things that we just cannot control. We can't control them. We can't fake them. And they're universal across the globe. So let's take a second. What would you say this man's face is showing you?
He got caught.
He got caught.
I was gonna say fear.
Say nervous.
Fear or nervous? Yeah, absolutely. This is definitely fear. We know this because of his eyebrows. They're raised up, they're drawn together. Think about a cartoon character. I'm just describing the eyebrows in particular. You know, if SpongeBob wants to be fearful, you're going to see his eyes kind of like that, right? They'll draw him a certain way. Wrinkles in the forehead, upper eyelids are raised, but the lower eyelid is drawn up. And you can see the white of the eyes showing in particular, right? And the mouth there. So that's fear. Definitely. That's your first micro expression. How about this one?
You just got some tea, boy.
Surprise, like
Excited.
Excited? Anyone else?
surprised.
Surprise. This is surprise. Absolutely. Eyebrows are raised and curved. Again, think about a cartoon character. How would they describe or how would they show a cartoon character looking surprised? Skin below the brow is stretched. Horizontal wrinkles across the forehead, eyelids opened, and the jaw like, like, whoa, right? But there's no tension. There's no tightness around the face. How about this one?
He didn't come home last night.
Ooh.
Sad. Or
Sadness.
nervous.
Very specific.
Sadness.
Sadness, yes, definitely.
I didn't hear you, Courtney. What'd you say? Sadness.
Sadness, she agreed with you. All right, inner
Yeah.
corners of the eyebrows are drawn in and then up. I always think about, where's my pen? I always think about, again, how I would draw something. You know, you might do something like that, right? Those are sad eyebrows. In a few seconds when we see anger, I'll give you angry eyebrows, but those are sad eyebrows. Inner corners
You
of the
can see
eyebrows.
a little bit of wrinkle on the right eyebrow, like right. That's what made me think like she upset. She's upset.
Absolutely. Skin below the eyebrows is triangulated, the little wrinkle there. Lips are drawn down. You can see the sad face here, right? I don't know if you can see the red pen. And the jaw comes up, so sadness. All right, how about, whoops, I'm erasing you as opposed to her face there. Nope, doesn't want to do it. How about this next one? Oh, lower lip. What's this one?
I don't know. She got a lot going on.
Anger.
I think a little confidence.
This
Confidence.
is anger again. Yeah, this is
Is
anger.
it? 'Cause it looks like happy and anger all at the same time. She
Look
needs
at
better
angry
acting skills.
eyebrows. Angry
Mm-mm.
eyebrows. And also the fact that her mouth is kind of square. Those are key aspects of that angry face. Definitely anger, eyebrows lowered, drawn together, vertical lines appear between the eyebrows. So like right here, whoops, come here. And it's hard to switch between pen and mouse. There are lines right there in her face. What else do we have here? Lower lid is tensed, eyes are in a hard stare, lips are closed and pressed firmly, or if they're open, it's got that square shape, like she's shouting. And dilated nostrils. That's attractive.
Professor, I can't take her serious. I don't even know. I
know.
It's
It's hard to find pictures for these, especially like a clip art type thing. It's really hard to find pictures for these, just so you know.
Because I was about to say that picture will look more like she's a little confident, you know. Like,
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Like she just wants something like, yeah, I beat you. What now?
yeah, like, you know.
Right.
Years ago, I was doing a lesson on, again, perception, how you see people, and I needed to find a picture of an African-American man. And please remember, you know, just as we are biased, when you go to, here, tell you what, we'll do this for a second. When you go to the internet and you search for something, discard. Give me just a second. Bear with me just a second here. So if I go to the Google, right, and I search for, let's say, I'll just search for black man, all right? And I hit images. What do you think I'm going to see? Anger? Did I read your lips correctly? Okay, what else? Anything else?
I'm just gonna put it out there, mostly something negative. I
Was it jail photos?
Let's see.
Got shot.
Well, George Floyd comes up right away there. What else do we see?
Yeah.
And a
Nobody's
lot of time-
smiling, really.
Yep. There's not a lot of positive there. In particular, I was looking for, at one point I was looking for angry black man. And that was really bad. I mean, you got some really negative images there. And the reason why I'm showing you this is because I want you to realize, you know, where we are biased, you see the same thing here with Google. All right. So I'm going to try another one. And remember, this is programmed by people. So our thoughts and our biases and our perceptions are going to be, you know, projected. So beautiful woman, what do you think I'm going to see?
Skinny women, white women.
Skinny women. Yeah, long hair.
Yep, there they are.
Told you. I already know. My daughter did this.
There's one, there's two. Yeah, exactly.
My daughter did this. She did it for her teacher for her social something class she had in middle school, some new class. And that's definitely what came up. They were talking about this.
They're
yeah.
all
It's
white
a little
women.
surprising. We have not that much, but we have some black women in there. I think they're beginning to realize that.
But pay attention to the commercials before,
Yes.
I'm gonna say before COVID, because if you pay attention, and I'm not trying to be an a-hole, and if I offend anyone,
Nope, you're
I'm
not.
apologizing now. But I'm gonna be honest. Pay attention to the commercials even now. When you watch a commercial and they have a black person in the commercial, the person is not really black. They're supposed to symbolize a black person. It's a light-skinned yellow individual who does not look like us.
There you go.
Then on top of that, when they do have a real looking black, dark skinned melanated individual like these beautiful queens are right here.
But a lot of these are not very dark either, or they're
not, but they flip it very quickly. Like if you notice, my daughter and I did this experiment. We counted the commercial numbers. When it's a white woman on the commercial on the woman stays for more. I want to call my daughter in here. I think it was like more than 6. It's like 6 seconds on the white woman. But when it's a black woman, it stays for less than a second. Like we can't even get one out of our mouth, and they switched it like this. And my daughter was like, wow. Like, wow.
Absolutely.
Like, and it really sucks. So
it does.
It's really bad. So it's like that silent, nonverbal communication that they're still showing. It's still racist, racial injustice still going on, but they're doing it silently. So
that's why I want you to think about this for the final.
Yeah,
that's why I want you to think about this for the final, Because the fact that Google, when I do a Google search, is showing me certain types of people, the fact that we can predict what we're going to see, that communicates something.
Mhm.
It really
Mhm.
does.
Also, what I've noticed, okay, so this is a no judgment zone. So I love Real Housewife of whatever city.
Oh, judging.
And but I've noticed this past year or so, that New York has added a woman of color. Not saying that these shouldn't have been done before, but
Yeah.
I feel as if that there's an agenda.
Yes.
I feel
Yes.
like there's the Real Housewives of New York City, they added one black lady. The Real
Mhm.
Housewives of Beverly Hills, they added an Asian lady.
Yeah.
And I know she's Asian, but I can't remember what kind. And then there was another one too, and I can't remember what it was. They added a person of color and stuff like that. And I almost, there are some situations I almost feel as if segregation is happening all over again. And
Yes.
as weird as that sounds, because it's like, and sometimes, and for the main, when I notice it, it's black people, it's people of color, and I see them on the TV and stuff like that. Like, oh, well, the things that can get away with, it just blows my mind. Because if a white person were to say on TV, that's a black person thing, oh my Lanta. But you see all the time on TV, oh, that's white people shit.
Yeah, it's
okay.
And you know what? I have to agree with you, Courtney. I agree with you to an extent, maybe because I'm black, but I agree with you to an extent because it's like it's happening though. It's the nonverbal that white people are doing it. We verbalize it. White people do it nonverbal. There's a difference because we say it, right? We verbalize it, but when I'm not saying all white people, for the white ones on here, not all white, but what I'm saying is it's a nonverbal, literally. Everything, every racial thing is nonverbal. We verbalize how we feel. We say it because there was a time we weren't able to, but even although we're verbalizing it, it's still looked over. It's still ignored. You understand what I'm saying? And no one cares, really and truly.
Systemic injustice.
So thank you. And
systemic injustice,
that was
systemic racism.
That was one of the meetings, the last NAACP meeting that we had. That was one of the things we were talking about. And it's very true. You're very right. Like the reason why we had that conversation in the meeting is because the Delta Sigma Theta sorority, they had their first white girl, and they let her join. And I'm not gonna lie to you.
Which sorority?
Delta Sigma Theta.
No kidding.
I'm pissed. I'm not gonna lie. You like be mad at me. I don't care. I'm pissed off because it's not for the Delta Sigma Theta. It's for Black women to be around Black sisters who are supporting each other. There
Powerful,
are
yes.
that are white that are just for white women. Like, and I'm not gonna lie, my cousin, who is Jamaican and white, her mother's white, her mother married my uncle who passed away, is Jamaican. They didn't let her in because they found out she is, but if you look at her, she looks like a blonde, blue-eyed white woman, like my cousin. She has thicker hair than the average, but she has the body frame of Kim Kardashian naturally, but they didn't let her in. And they said because they told her why. They said because she's mixed. But because the Delta Sigma Theta, they at first fought it, the white girl was gonna make it a big thing. So what did they do? What did the Black person do? They bowed down and they let her in to keep the quiet, to keep the peace. And that's disgusting to me because now that's another thing that's being snatched from us. And it's not fair. So
perfect example, nonverbal, guys. So I was watching this thing yesterday, right? And then there's this doctor. He's an African-American doctor. And so he was saying how he wears his scrubs everywhere that he goes to get that peace of mind that if he's driving, he will not be pulled over. If he's on his bike,
Absolutely.
he will not. And he was like, so the reason why he wears that scrubs, it signifies hope with throughout the whole pandemic, but at the same time, the scrubs gives him that type of, I'm a doctor, I'm this,
Appearance.
you're gonna perceive me as that, and
Mhm.
not as something else. And then he says, so there might be like a negative to it too, because I might be wearing the scrub and certain people might just be offended as to why am I wearing the scrub? I'm not the doctor, not knowing that I am a doctor. So he was like, but for me, wearing my scrubs everywhere he goes, listen, he would go bike riding, he has the scrubs on. He'll go thing. And I was watching the whole segment and I'm like, that's sad. And he loves it. He's a neurologist and he loves what he does. But he says, because you look at me, you're not looking at what I'm capable. You're looking at the fact that I'm an African American.
Yeah.
I feel like I have to justify who I am by wearing my scrubs.
Mhm. And
But
these are
that goes-
such awesome examples. I totally agree with you. In the interest of time, I want to kind of step back to where we were, but keep this. Like I said, when we talk about the final has to do with communications. Just take any aspect of communications and narrow in on it, focus in on it. You can look at how, redlining neighborhoods it's like the basis of systemic racism in many cities, but it also communicates something, right? Or the fact that this gentleman has to wear his scrubs everywhere to be taken seriously. He's communicating something. He's using that appearance code to communicate something because he knows people are going to judge him instantly based on it. Or again, going back to what we were saying with the pictures a few minutes ago when I was on Google and the media, when you say, what does a beautiful person look like? What does a beautiful man look like? What does a beautiful woman look like? There's a type and we can predict that type. And again, that is the media, that's technology. Those are our biases. And remember, there are certain algorithms producing that, but it's communicating something to everyone. It's communicating them to whoever's taking in that media, it's to children, to anyone who's consuming that sort of thing. And that's a whole new, aspect of communications is media consumption and what messages we see time and time again, stereotypes. Forgive me, I hate cutting you off, but again, it's 8:15 and I try to keep us a little bit shorter than that, all right? What I'm gonna do is just turn this on really quick and preach, I love it. And go back to just what we're looking at. There's two more of those microaggressions. We did anger already. How about this one? What do you see here?
I want to say what I'm thinking, but I'm gonna get in trouble. She sees something little.
I was about
You're
to
not
say
wrong.
discuss.
Disgust, yeah. That's it. Ew. Wait, that's it? Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. This one's a pretty simple one. Upper eyelid raised, lower lip raised, nose wrinkled, disgust. And you're not wrong with your guess, Marzina. It's that could be disgusting or perceived as such. Cheeks are raised. How about this one?
I don't think so. Try me.
You're close. She's the hardest one. This is the hardest one.
I know you are, but what am I?
So with this one, I wouldn't say disgust, but a little disappointment.
Don't mess with my man. I'm gonna be the one to break it to you.
You're so close. You're both so close. Anyone else want to take a stab at it?
Where is Courtney?
I'm right here.
What do you see?
And that looks very unpleasant.
If she was speaking to you, what would she be saying at the same time?
Attitude.
Yeah, attitude.
Hate. This is hate. Yeah, contempt. So yeah, you took my man. I hate you. Contempt or hate, absolutely. Pretty simple. One side of the mouth is raised. I don't like that person. So probably the most simple one, but it's the hardest one to diagnose. And then this one's pretty obvious. Happiness. right?
Yeah.
Corners of the lips drawn up and back, mouth may or may not be exposed or parted with teeth exposed, and laugh lines on the side of the face. All right. There you go. But those are universal micro expressions across all cultures that people, you know, if they hate someone, they're going to look that way. If they're happy about something, they're going to look that way. All right. The last thing I have for you, I'm actually going to put on hold, but I just wanted to point out another thing. I'll send this to you guys in an email. Screams are a new way of communicating. It's a vocalic, but screaming is another way to consider nonverbal communication. So I'll send these to you in an email. But essentially, we've got different types of screams. That's what people are studying now. Like happening now in communications is the fact that people are discussing screams and what they mean. So think about it for a second. What would you say screams mean? Like what types of emotions are we communicating with them?
You said scream, like when you scream?
Between fear and sexual and
Mhm.
laughing.
Yeah, I was about to say all of that. Fear.
I agree with the collective.
Okay, so they're still identifying what types of screams people use, but the big one's aggression, like a rage scream, excitement, think little kids at the ice cream truck. Fear is the obvious one, like you're looking at here. Pain, screaming in pain. Startled because someone jumped out at you. Screaming in pleasure would be the sexual one. And what they've discovered is maybe we started out using screams to communicate danger, but now because we're in a more like relaxed kind of a lifestyle, you know, we don't have to worry about the dinosaurs coming or bears attacking us all the time. For now, as adults, we best recommend screams of excitement and pleasure. So I've got a couple videos I'll share with you via email there. Yep, screams of pleasure. It's a real thing. And we'll leave it at that. All right, my friends, it is 8:20 now. Yikes, it's 8:20 now. And I'm going to go ahead and we're going to stop sharing and I'm going to